Welcome back to Fitness or Fiction. I'm joined with Curtis's biceps, and today we're talking about mini workouts. So we're going to talk about mini workouts. Unlike Curtis's biceps that are very large, mini workouts are quite small, Curtis.
So mini workouts are something I've come to love because...
Do you actually do them?
Well, for me, sometimes I have to break up my workout just because my day gets that way.
Can you define what a mini workout is?
So what are we talking about? The mini workouts I've had over the period of since 2021, especially with my online business. But since 2015, I'll give somebody a workout that apparently fits into their schedule, but stuff happens. And
what?
Yeah, I know, right? Life.
Weird.
Life. Adulting, hashtags. Yeah. So anyways, but what'll happen is I give this workout, it's a good workout, whatever, and it fits the time that they think they have and whatever else, but something comes up, their kid needs something, they got to go pick up some milk for the next morning or something like this. And then all of a sudden they're like, oh man, I was only able to get 3 exercises in, but I'm going to finish the rest. And I had one client in particular, his name's Garrett, and he's a pilot and he's a busy dude. And he was always worried about oh man, I'm finishing everything, but I'm not doing it at one time. I'm like, I don't care. You're getting the total workload in. I don't care, man. I call that sipping. You just get in what you can and get back to it. And when you have a home gym, that makes sense. But these short bouts of working out, especially when it's weights, it can be effective with cardio when it's high intensity too. And kind of the rule is really high intensity means you need less time, right? But it's amazing some of the impacts that you can have with these workouts where you've broken it up. And there's tons of benefits to it and very few challenges. But the fact is, for most people, sipping has this huge benefit of they can kind of get it in wherever possible.
You mean sipping, if you're sipping a drink, you're kind of sipping your workout.
Just a small little bit. It's okay, let's say my workout has 6 exercises. I only had time for 2. And then I went away and did whatever, came back to the house. I got 2 more, made some dinner, whatever else. And then I finished the last 2. And for that day, my workouts are done.
Did you warm up and stretch after each mini workout?
Well, this brings up another interesting thing because it's how much warming up do you really require? Because a lot of people will say, if you don't warm up, you're going to get
injured. You're going to pull something. Yeah.
But I have this question for you. Does a lion warm up before it kills a gazelle?
Oh, Eric? We're going Liver King, are we? Curtis, we've never done steroids. Never, ever.
Well, the view of working out has become really interesting. It has to be this whole production. And it's have you been moving around that day? Yeah, maybe do some sets at a lighter weight. Make sure you feel ready to do what you're going to do. And I'm not advocating show up cold and do a max lift or anything. But you can take a few sets at a lighter weight and make sure that you're feeling ready to go. It doesn't need to be a big production, man. Mm-hmm. But I've seen this work really well with a few clients. They've gotten really great results as far as, pain management and decrease in dysfunction, strength gain, cardiovascular changes, really big changes. And they're fitting it in wherever they have time.
So we decided to talk about this just because if you Google 2023 fitness trends, this is one of the top level ones, on the top of the list, mini workouts. It's some new and revolutionary thing. Celebrity trainer Curtis Howden has created this revolutionary tactic. It's called supersets. It's something new.
I just hate the hype thing. Okay, so if you were to look at the development of the human species, I think for the entire breadth of human civilization, it would have been weird to spend 1 hour as the movement that you did for the whole day.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense.
Well, think about it. If you were to go to sub-Saharan Africa where it's not super urbanized, everything that you do requires work product. I got to walk and get some damn water, first of all. Then I got to come back. Then I got to boil it. Then I got to do this. And then I have to washing clothes is a manual thing and whatever else. And when you look at the way that humans existed previous to especially later in the 20th century, a lot of it, there was a lot of physical work product that needed to be done as part of your daily life. So when you would look at I'm going to do this double shot espresso workout, I'm just going to go ahead and get 45 minutes really hard, and then the rest of the day, like, I don't really do much. Like, I'm at work and stuff. I'm going to watch some TV. Like, our bodies, I don't think that's the norm. If you look at the entire breadth of human existence versus the last 100 years, I think that what we do now is very against our adaptive setup.
Yeah, we structure things very weird now as humans. This whole mini workout thing, I think people get too caught up in the micro optimization of everything and the all or nothing mentality. If I can't do my full 1 hour workout and I got 20 minutes, I'm just not going to do it because what's the point? It's not the whole thing. I myself absolutely have got interrupted a lot this year with my newborn son, Jackson. And I don't even think twice about it though. Like if I hit the gym and I've got 6 exercises to do in my program and I get done 2 of them and Jackson wakes up, I don't even think twice about stopping the workout. I go and get Jackson, hang out with him, and do the rest at night. I'm like, wow, I guess I'm gonna hit the rest at 8 p.m. and there's no real disruption aside from maybe if you're in the flow state of your workout and you're enjoying it. Maybe it's dissatisfying to get interrupted and have to finish it off later. But for the most part, I'm like, well, I'm gonna get it done one way or the other.
Let me ask you this: if you interrupt your flow state, like you're into it, you're enjoying your workout, maybe you're listening to a podcast or doing something, you're into your workout, and it gets interrupted and you have to stop. Is it worse for you to be stopped in the middle of your workout and have to come later? Or is it worse for you mentally if you just don't finish it that day?
I feel like it would be worse mentally for me personally if I don't finish it that day. But I feel like it'd also be easy for some people to just brush it off and move on.
I think that it would be easy to brush it off, but I think that it would take up space in their head.
Especially if you already have built the habit of brushing your workouts off.
Yeah, well, but that weighs on people. Like, think about how many clients that you've had. Like, have you had clients, like, they hate themselves when they don't do it. Mm-hmm. Like, and I'm not saying that they necessarily should hate themselves. I'm not advocating for that. But even for me, if I say I'm going to do something and I don't do it, I have a problem with that. It's like, man, like I'm failing myself. That's the worst person to fail. Mm-hmm. Right? And I see that with my clients often. And like even last week, I had a client approach me being like, hey, listen, I haven't been doing my workouts on the day that they were given. I'm sorry. And I'm like, what do you mean you're sorry? You finished everything. Like it wasn't on the exact day and it might not have been in one go, but like you finished everything. Like stop. Give yourself a break. You finished everything. That's what I want. Good job. Right? Like, I think that is something that's really valuable. And if you look at pros and cons of this kind of mini workout thing, like the pro of it is you still get the same work product in. There's another big pro that's like, well, you're not going to have the accumulated fatigue, so you're going to be able to perform at a higher level because you don't have all these extra byproducts, like that fatigue accumulation and all this sort of stuff. So you're going to go in fresh for each exercise pretty much, right?
Even if you don't, even on the second bell, let's say you have to go at 9 p.m. and you're a little bit more tired and you're not feeling fresh, getting it done is still better than not getting it done.
Well, yeah, but like if you took 4 exercises in a row, you have some like accumulation of fatigue, which will help with your adaptation in some ways. But you also have more accumulation of fatigue, so you won't be able to push as much tension through those tissues. Yeah. So like there is a benefit to having that rest in between, and we know that about 80% of your recovery happens in the first 4 hours. So there are big upsides to this, and one of the big downsides I see to it is if you don't have a home gym and it's going to take you 20 minutes to get over to the gym, that might not work. Yeah. It just might not work.
But to that point, you can still get lots of results from body weight activity.
Absolutely.
Like even for me and you, like for as strong as me or you are or claim to be, wink, wink, if we hit 100 push-ups every night, like before bed, that's going to accumulate to a lot of push-ups by the end of the year, which is another point that I want to talk about, being the macro versus the meso. Meso is the bigger version, yes? Micro, macro, meso?
Opposite.
I messed it up?
Micro, meso, macro.
Okay, so the meso view is like the middle view. So to break this down, micro, we break it down in a bunch of different ways, but micro would be like your daily workout, meso could be your weekly or your monthly, and then the macro, the big one, could be your 3 months.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can break that down in a lot of ways. For Olympic athletes, their macro would be like the 4-year cycle, and then their mesos would be like years, and then their microcycles could be like the months. And
so however you define that, what I wanted to say though with these mini workouts is just in just getting it done. If you can only do 2 chin-ups, if you did 2 chin-ups every single night, that could be classified roughly as a mini workout. I would probably assume that you should tap more onto that, but that goes hand in hand with that grease the groove, that coin term from Pavel
Satsulin.
Pavel Satsulin.
T.S. Satsulin. Very interesting.
Yeah, so he talked about exactly what I just said. Like if you can do 1 perfect chin-up and you want to get it stronger, do 1 chin-up every single day, or do it 1 chin-up twice a day, 1 in the morning and 1 at night. By the end of the year, you'll have 700 plus chin-ups complete.
And him and Dan John did a book called Easy Strength. Mm-hmm. And in Easy Strength, they're like, you don't need to go to failure all the time. Like if your goal is strength, you don't need to be going to failure all the time. And so they would advocate often being like between that 70 and 80% mark and like never hitting a grindy or failure rep. And you can get very strong doing that. And there is a limit to how far you're going to go competitively that way. Mm-hmm. But for the average person that doesn't want to be competitive and doesn't want to be, the most fit person on earth and whatever, it's like, well, you don't have to go to failure. Like if you're looking to be strong and resilient for your life, you can use that approach. And he had really good results that way. And with the Russian Kettlebell Club, he really had quite the following where he developed a lot of people to understand that they can accomplish a lot of things without having to go to failure all the time, because he wasn't advocating bodybuilding. He was advocating, like, they would call it functional strength, but he often would talk about get it throughout the day, like just take it piece by piece. And for him and Dan John would often say, well, if you can do 2 chin-ups as your max, take 1 chin-up and do 1 chin-up like 10 times a day. And all of a sudden that gets easy. And then you can take 2 chin-ups. Mm-hmm. And then you can, as that gets easy, test your max. Oh, you can do 4 now? Okay, well, take 3 a couple times during the day. And like this stuff does accumulate really well.
Yeah, so with the mini workouts, if you had your full-blown workout got interrupted and you had to hit the last 20 minutes at the end of the day, if that happened to you 50 times in the year time frame, it doesn't even make that much of a difference. Like it might make a difference in your day or in your week or in a little bit of adaptation to the program, but in the year time frame or the 5-year time frame, like if you continue to do these mini workouts or broken workouts in a 5-year time period versus doing nothing, the differences are going to be astronomical.
Well, in the larger time period that it's stretched out over, the bigger of a difference it'll make.
Consistency.
And I would say, actually, when you look at a strength goal, purely I want my body to function better from a strength standpoint, I would actually argue very strongly that would be a value add. It wouldn't take away. It would be a value add. Mm-hmm. As far as body composition, you could argue that you wouldn't have
not
the
best,
accumulated
not the most optimal.
Yeah, you could argue that for sure. And logistically, like I said, if you don't have a home gym or something like this, you could argue that would be.
But that argument again is micro optimization.
That's right. That's exactly it. But when we look at exercise, I think that something that's important to get out there and talk about often is it doesn't need to be particularly dignified. It doesn't need to be perfect.
You say dignified, I say sexy.
Yeah, it doesn't. Yeah, it doesn't need to be that. Like it could be something that's really basic, but it's done consistently. I have seen crazy results from just basic stuff done consistently. Like when I first started working out, I got up to 150 push-ups in a row, like chest to ground, locked out arms. Mm-hmm. And I wasn't rushing. And I was a light kid. I was like 100 pounds at the time. But that's a lot of push-ups. And I developed that from a military push-ups manual. And I would just follow along with this little manual that my dad had. And I was hiding that I was working out because I was a little guy and I didn't want my brother to make fun of me or anything. But like I would turn around and all of a sudden it was like, oh, geez, like I can actually accomplish something. That's quite the feat.
Yeah.
And people would check me on that. They're like, I don't believe you could do over 100 push-ups in a row. And I'd be like, yeah, watch this.
We're just beating the drum of consistency, though. That consistency and just getting it done, even if it's at 60% intensity. Oh, yeah, well, you got to go hard in the gym. If you're just getting it done, 60% intensity, 10 minutes a day, 20 minutes 2 times a week, you just got to get your workouts done. Just a little bit.
Isn't that the game, though? Like, I think that we're sold everywhere that everything needs to be a certain way in fitness. Needs to be this way. It has to be optimized this way, you know.
Everything about our human life right now is optimization, optimizing everything, optimizing your meal prep, optimizing your sleep. That's going to be our next episode when we talk about biohacking. Curtis wants to put microchips in his body.
Yeah, no, I don't. But at the end of the day, though, when it comes to fitness, like we know a few things. And one of the things is that consistency is going to win. It doesn't need to be the most perfect approach. It doesn't need to be the most like cutting edge of anything. It's like, well, we know that a way to make things work is to just be consistent. You can take a subpar approach and be consistent on it, and you win. Like the world's best program's only good if you're actually doing it. So, what are you going to say? That's kind of the game. But
I think that's a good wrap up.
Awesome. Well, if you're still here, like, follow, share, all that sort of stuff. We appreciate your time, and we look forward to seeing you next episode.
Biohacking's next. Thanks for joining us this week. We appreciate your support.
If you enjoyed this episode, we'd love it if you would subscribe, follow, and throw us a like on YouTube, Spotify, or Apple Podcasts.